chair for this paper. I think what we'll do, if the people do come in, we'll allow for, say, 20 minutes for each presentation and allow for some questions. And then at the time, if we still have time available, we'll allow for further questions that people would like to ask. As it should happen, I'm the first presenter for this particular session, so let us commence the process. Right, would you like to join us? Good afternoon. You can come and join us. The session started. The title of my presentation is Information Technology Acceptance in South Africa, Comparative Analysis of the Perceived Usefulness and Perceived Ease of Use Constructs. And the presenter is myself. My name is Uda Richard Alveveg. I'm employed by eThekwini Municipality. I'm an IT project manager. And I also have links because I do research from the University of KwaZulu-Natal in the city of Durban. The city of Durban, we live on the east coast, has a population of about 3.5 million people. So in comparison to Jordan, which has a population of about 6 million, just wanted to give a comparison, we have 3.5 million people. I've been in the industry. I come from the punch card operator. I come from a COBOL background. So I'm what is classified as an IT practitioner. I understand the theoretical constructs in terms of what theories are, which I've done in my few postgraduate degrees. But whatever I try and do, I always come through the lens of an IT practitioner. And I like to do that. I engage with many practitioners, with many academics, not only in South Africa, but during my travels around the world, and in my publishings, and in my research articles, and I published a book on decision-making support system, a peer-reviewed book. So I enjoy that. I find a tremendous sense of taking the theories, having a read through those theories, engaging with people from across the disciplines, and then trying to bring some added value to the work that I'm doing, not only in my work environment, but also in the stuff that I publish, and also for that is useful for my employer, for the eThekwini Municipality. Just to give you an idea of the size of the eThekwini Municipality in the city of Durban, where I come from, the municipality has a population of about 20,000 people. So it's a large municipality in a city of approximately 3.5 million citizens. Now, what I always find useful is, and I always try and teach that to the students as well, is I always like to say, what is my presentation going to be? What is the outline? What is the roadmap? Where are we going? So my presentation outline is as follows. I'll first give you a presentation. Then I will talk a little bit about information systems adoption and use. Then I will talk about the famous technology acceptance model, or we refer to as TAM, what the literature says about that. Then I will give a discussion of two selected TAM, technology acceptance models, and EIS. And EIS in this particular situation that I'll discuss refers to executive information systems. I will then talk about two studies. I will talk about my study, the Alveveg study in 2002, and a subsequent study, the Akonai study in 2005, and talk about the study findings. I will then do a summary of those two TAM EIS study findings, and then I will give some concluding remarks. So that this afternoon is the program. That's what I'm going to be covering. That's the roadmap ahead. That's the journey that I'm going to take you through. Right, let us start. The first one, introduction. The importance of information for decision making in organizations by executives and for managers is well documented. To benefit from information systems in organizations, an increasing number of organizations are looking at implementing information systems. And what are these types of information systems? There are many types of information systems, but for the purposes of this study, my focus will be on executive information systems. How does the literature define an executive information system? An executive information system, or an EIS, is a computerized information system designed to provide managers and organizations with access to both internal and external information that is relevant to their management activities and also for their decision making. In South Africa, EIS are still found in many organizations. An EIS should be flexible enough to support different classes of business data. For example, internal data, external data, structured data, unstructured data. And it should be able to be accessible to different levels of users, executive users, managers, middle managers. However, what we are finding nowadays, in particular in many organizations in South Africa, pervasive computing needs are coming to the fore. And that means that we need to integrate these executive information systems into this new realm of technology of pervasive computing. The user acceptance of information technology has been a primary focus of information technology implementation research for the past 2 decades, where information technology adoption and use has been a goal of major research. Davis's technology acceptance model states that perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use are the 2 factors that govern the adoption and use of information technology. TAM has strong behavioral elements. For the 2 selected TAM studies that I'm going to talk about, they're going to be involved the following. There's a survey of 31 organizations in what is called the EMA. It's the eThekwini municipal area. That's the area that I live in the city of Durban, where 31 organizations were studied by myself. In other words, I did a survey to 31 organizations, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then the second one was a case study at a large multinational organization, Unilever South Africa, which is also situated in the EMA, in the eThekwini municipal area, and that was conducted by Sunny Antikeya Akao Naya. So what this paper focuses on, it focuses on the results of these 2 studies. But I must mention what is important over there, that although there were different research approaches taken during the 2 studies, this is not compared. So in other words, the way that I did my survey, visiting 31 companies and doing the structured interview questionnaire is slightly different to the way that the later researcher, Sunny Akao Naya, did, but those 2 research approaches are not compared. So that sets the ground platform about what the research is all about. So let us now look at information systems and adoption and use. What is that? User acceptance and continuous usage, in other words, adoption, are the important determinants in gauging the success or failure of an information system. Computer or information systems usage has been defined as the key indicator of the adoption of information technology in organizations. Since executive information systems projects are classified as high-risk projects, in other words, high risk, high failure, the successful EIS implementation and continuous usage by executives and middle management is an important factor to consider. We have to ensure that when these high-risk systems are implemented, that they are continually used. Because if they are not continually used, obviously it will lead to no use, and eventually the system will fail. So now let us have a look at the technology acceptance model and some literature review. TAM was developed by Fred Davis and postulates that 2 particular beliefs, perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use, perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use, are primary relevance for computer acceptance behaviors. The basic model of TAM is based or derived on the general theory of reasoned action, and it is intended to explain computer use in terms. That means the model attempts to explain the attitudes towards using information system. TAM has been verified and confirmed by many scholars as a practical theoretical model for investigating users' behavior. Here, the theory of reasoned action asserts that two factors are primary determinants for systems use. These are the two factors. The perceived usefulness, PU, it's the user's subjective probability that in using a specific technology will increase his or her job performance. And secondly, perceived ease of use, PEOU, the user's assessment that the system will be easy to use and requires little effort. So I've done this now just to represent this schematically, so it makes it easier to see. We have external variables. We have at the top there perceived usefulness, perceived ease of use, and that leads to attitude towards using the system, the behavioral intention to use the system, and leading to the actual system use. And if we don't have the actual system use, then obviously the system will fail. In my paper, I speak a lot about the various TAM-related studies which have been undertaken. I'll just touch on one or two. For example, Burton and Jones and Hubona replicated a TAM study with a survey of 125 employees in the United States agency. The results showed that PU and PEOU may not mediate on all influences from the external environment, environment factors on system use. They suggested that some external actors, such as systems experience, level of education, and age, may have a direct effect on the system's use. TAM has also been challenged as an appropriate model for developing countries, for example, the developing countries of South Africa, for information systems use. Hendricks and Jacobs, for example, argued that TAM's popularity derives from its common sense nature, its simplicity, and its robustness. And these type of things, based on the literature review, was the rationale for exploring those two constructs, the PU and the PEOU, for the study that I undertook. So let us have a look now at the discussion of the two studies that I mentioned first of all. The first one with the Arvivek study. When I did the Arvivek study in 2002, the Spearman rank order coefficients were calculated for PU on the attitude towards using, and those were the factors that were found. They were considerably lower than what was expected. When I say considerably lower than what was expected, that which was previously published in the literature. The correlation factor for the usefulness used was also lower than for the ease of use, also compared to the available literature. In the Akonai study, which was 3 years later, there are the correlation factors for PEOU values, which were also low, and the researcher attributed those to the low heterogeneous nature of the data. The correlation factor of the PEO to the attitudes towards use was higher than the perceived usefulness towards the attitude towards use. So let's just have a look at these two study findings. How are we going for time, sir? The time is okay?
You can take my time.
Are you enjoying that?
You are the care. There's only time for you. It's
now, I always have to be fair to the people, and I'd rather engage with them. So let's have a look at the study findings. In the Arvivek study, the PEO on the intended use was greater than the effect of the PU on the intended use. There was very small statistical variations in the interview's responses. This was after when we got these figures, and I looked at these figures and I said, but you know these figures, I'm a practitioner now, it doesn't match up to what the literature says. What needs to be done? So I went to a statistician, and the statistician advised me to have a look at those and said, because of the small statistical variations, that may account why you have those type of results. When you look at the Akonai study, the PEOU and the PU have a positive influence on the attitude towards executive information systems. And the PEOU, when compared to U, has a great effect on the user's attitude. Okay, so when we go now, what do we learn from this? What do we do when we have a look at both these studies? Both these studies, the Arviveg 2002 and the later study, both the studies are not in support of the basic tenets of the technology acceptance model. However, we need to now look further into the literature. We need to have a look at possible reasons for that. Not that we didn't look at all the literature previously, but we need to find whether or not there are some other reasons why that there might be reasons why those foundings were. When we look at the Venture Cash study, which was undertaken in 1999, that study indicates that PEOU can be a strong catalyst in fostering acceptance. And this thing seems to underscore, this study seems to underscore what Arviveg and Akonai had found. When we look at the Brown study, which was done at the same time of mine, the Brown study finds that perceived ease of use takes on increased importance as it influences both usage and perceived usefulness. So that was something that was further in support of the two studies. So then I went further and had a look, scratch some more, if I can use that word, or did a further literature study that the Dole, Hendrickson, and Deng study of 1998 indicated that despite, and this is the word, despite TAM's wide acceptance, a series of incremental cross-validations have produced conflicting and equivocal results that do not provide guidance for researchers or practitioners who might use TAM for decision making. When we look at yet another study about the technology acceptance model, from Andrew Rand, Ibarra, and Akonai, similar type of arguments were put forward as with the following, the previous three researchers. And so what we need to consider is that possibly we need to have a look at what are the reasons for this. Is it that, for example, that because South Africa is a developing country, is that conventional wisdom about what we know about PU and PEOU, what is in the literature, are there some things that we need to take into account? So let us have a look in the context about the two studies which I did. What are the four major findings from these two studies? First one, there are low correlation coefficients for PU and attitude towards using, and PEOU 80 constraints. The second one was the correlation for PUs and use was lower than for the PEOUs and use. The third one, it partially supports venture cash findings where PEOU can be a stronger catalyst than for perceived usefulness. And fourthly, it supports Brown's findings where PEOU relationship was higher than perceived usefulness and attitude towards use. So that's quite useful. But we must also bear in mind that these studies were done in terms of information technology some time ago. So we need to have a look at that when we reflect thereon, what are the things that we can derive from the study. And so I leave you with the following concluding remarks. Since these two studies were taken, pervasive computing has resulted in a move away from the traditional desktop model of computing towards having technology embedded into the environment. Future research may therefore need to be directed to investigating the role of potential other antecedents For example, we need to have a look at, for example, looking at some contextual factors such as experience, level of education, age, and gender of the people that we research in the organizations. There must be also possible extensions to the TAM model which need to be considered. Since IT acceptance studies should pay particular attention to the issue of assessing the contributions of variable factors explaining IT usage in decision making in organizations, these are all important factors which need to be considered when future surveys are done, where we have a look at the technology acceptance model and EI's linked to executive information systems in organizations in South Africa. Thank you. And that may help us explain the uses for decision making. Thank you very much.
Any question, please?
I have all the statistics and all the things that we've done, put that in the paper, but I didn't want to belabor that. I'd rather just show the main points, what we covered, and how we did it, and how it derived, and what we got to the conclusion to say these are now some possible areas for future research.
Thank you. No question.
No question.
Everything is clear.
Sorry?
Everything is clear.
Is it? Thank you.
Next presenter. All right.
Got 20 minutes.
Sure, 6:15. Sorry, I took a little bit of your time.
No.
I did.
You are welcome. You will see that.
Sorry about that. May I now have my colleague?
Yeah. Take mine from the back.
Yes.
Professor Otto, how do you use the social network, which is called sentiment analysis or opinion mining, of people who are writing their opinion about technology, about different topics in this field?
No, I haven't done that. So I'm going to speak to you about that because I don't know anything about that.
Now, this is a new field. During the last 10 years, they stopped working on what is called sentiment analysis and opinion mining. You went to Facebook, to Twitter, to Yahoo, and try to extract the reviews and comments written by the people about different topics. If you are a politician, you are interested in opinion of people about politics and what they want from the politician. If you are a producer or a company, you want to know the opinion of the consumer about your product.
I will speak to you about that.
I gave you my visiting card and you can correspond with me and we can cooperate.
But I just wanted those keywords for me to
You
write it on my paper.
Okay.
Is it all right?
Oh, of course. You are welcome.
Thank you.
My name is, sorry.
Wow.
Okay. Go.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi everybody, my name is Mario Kokut. I'm coming from University of Split, Faculty of Economics, Croatia, Department of Marketing, so I didn't have a first for I'm going to present the paper Correlation Analysis of the Effect of Sales Quality on the Relationship Quality in the B2B market. As you can see, it is not an IT paper, it is a paper from the field of sales marketing. So I'm going to be very fast. Only the main things, like a professor before. A few things in introduction. Tourism represents an extremely important part of Croatian economy. Around 15, or somebody said 20% of GDP is generated in tourist sector. We have some problems, like everybody in this moment occurring global crisis. These problems are the next years